because I feel like it. So the he or there will be light is enthusiastic. It's enthusiastic and it's powerful. And I think it's more powerful in, oops, I forgot. So we have to remember to pay attention to the vocabulary because there's no punctuation in Torah. Which is, by the way, probably why at some point, we don't know exactly when, approximately 2,000 years ago, perhaps longer, they developed the tradition of chanting Torah. We have a reference to chanting Torah in the Mishnah, which is 2,000 years ago, and the term used is ta'am, ta'am. And in Hebrew and in Yiddish, ta'am means, what's ta'am? Taste, flavor, ta'am, a taste or flavor. So, in the modern Hebrew term for chanting is ta'amim. So we're supposed to give a flavor or a taste to the Torah, which is why we're chanting it. Because again, in a way, the ta'am helps to bring a different resonance to the text, which is based upon words, and there's no vocabulary. And especially in this week's parsha, this is a good example because there's a lot of interaction between Moshe and Korach, and there's conversation, and there's emphasis, and all that's generated, or not generated, expressed through the tamim, the trump. Trump, by the way, is not a Yiddish word.
We can solve this problem
Again?
if we all did this.
Yes.
Because many hands make light work.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, that's a good one. Gee whiz, that's a good one. Boy, gotta say bracha over that. Gee. You know, there should be a bracha for making a good joke. You'd think there's a, with all the brachas that we have. Talos. Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haMashiach Hashem Tzidkenu. Page 99, please. Page 99. In the Siddur, page 99. To my mind, this is an incredibly powerful bracha. This is a blessing, and it's entitled a blessing for the soul. It starts with Elohai, it ends with Baruch Atah. If a passage either starts with Baruch Atah Hashem or ends Baruch Atah Hashem, it's called a bracha, a blessing. We've got lots of brachot. You know the Hamotzi and the Hagafen and the Mizonot, all those brachot. We say a bracha for putting on the talit. We say a bracha when we hold the lulav. We say a bracha when we go into the sukkah. We do all kinds of brachot. We say a bracha when we listen to the shofar. It's not blowing the shofar, it's listening to the shofar. So those are a lot of one-liners. But there are other brachot that are paragraphs long. In the middle of the afternoon service, like 2 o'clock on Yom Kippur, when we're starting to fade and the cantor is still chanting, there's this one section, it's like 6 pages long and it's one bracha. Okay, but anyway, but this bracha talks about the soul, but I want us to think about this for a moment, because I want us to look at the words. It's the third line down on the English side. You breathed it into me. And when I say this blessing every day, I picture it in a variety of ways. This is metaphor. It is, I think, intended to take us back to the mindset of reading Breshit, Genesis, where God is described as breathing into Adam, bringing life into a mass of just organic material. And that organic material is now transformed and never going to be the same.
And what's it?
You breathed it into me. You created, it's my God the soul. My God, the soul that you've given me is pure. You created it, the soul. You formed it, the soul. You breathed the soul into me. And just imagine that divine breath. But then you have to back up a little bit in your mindset, because if you go to the second sentence of Genesis, even before let there be light or there will be light, there is a wind or a force or a spirit, a ruach from God, cascading over all the whatever it is that's there, the unshaped, the unformed void with all this stuff inside it. But it has no coherence. And God's wind, which I think could be the prep for breath, is, again, cascading across the face of an undefined universe. So when I think of this, I'm thinking of that primordial wind which becomes breath from God to you and to me. And when I take a breath, not only is there gas exchange between the lungs and the outer atmosphere, what's really going on is that the breath is taking me back to the formation of the universe. And that's the case for everybody, for every person on the planet. Each one of us is a vessel of that primordial shared breath between God, the universe, and you and me. Page 99. The soul. My God, the soul that you've given me is pure. You created it. You formed it. You breathed it into me. You watch over it when it is in me. In the future you will take it from me, but then restore it to me in the world that is coming. As long as this soul is within me, I thank you, Adonai, my God, God of my ancestors, ruler of all creation, master of all souls, Baruch Atah Adonai, who restores the soul to the lifeless form. And now we're ready. Birchot Shachar on pages 103 and 104. If so able, you're invited to rise, pages 103 and 104. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech v'ivina lahavchin ben yom u'ben layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asa likol tzarkim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'guram. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tif'ara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten layoef koach. Uneno yom v'chol yom l'chenu chesed rachamim b'einecha v'nechol roenu v'tigmalenu chasedim tovim baruch atah Adonai gomel chasedim tovim lamo Yisrael. You may be seated. And again, it's not 100% coherent because there's a movement between and within these brachot, which are on page 103 and 104, but in loose form, I think they're really two subsections, but in loose form, the beginning of these Birchot HaShachar, the early morning blessings on page 103, is speaking in the individual sense and a bit more of the tangible sense. So the personal sense. So the second bracha is She'asani b'tzamo, I'm created in the image of God. The third is She'asani Yisrael, I'm an Israelite. Then it's She'asani ben Chorin, I'm free. So what do I do in my life? I'm a physical entity, but I'm created in the image of God. I'm a member of Yisrael, and I'm also free. So what do I do with my potential? My potential is derived from not only being created in the image of God, but because I'm a member of Israel and I've inherited Torah and been touched by God, I'm supposed to act in a certain way. And furthermore, She'asani ben Chorin or bat Chorin, we are free people. What do we do with our freedom? Do we just live our lives and go through the ordinary aspects of life? Or do we in some way take hold of our potential, our capacity to make the world different, to make the world kadosh and improved? That's what's going on. And then it talks about being dressed and standing up and moving around, and that's more of the physical. And then it's really the last two blessings, because I think the last blessing, Hanoten Koach, was originally somewhere else and got moved for a different reason. But effectively, the ending point of these two brachot is, of this section, is the last two brachot on page 104, which are really Ozer Yisrael b'gvura and Oter Yisrael b'tifara, which means that all Israel collectively is girded with strength and crowned with glory. And the word Oter is to receive a crown. It's as if there's a coronation. God is attending to each one of us, and God is crowning us with glory. So that's the exclamation point. That's the pinnacle of these early morning blessings that are saying you're waking up, you're getting dressed. Who are you? You are surrounded by the heavenly touch. And then therefore, if you look at the bottom paragraph of 104, which we just recited for a moment of quiet before the concluding blessing aloud, there's no option but to do good and to bring mitzvah and chesed into the world because of who we are. It's almost like a recipe. And if you add these components in, you're bound to come up with a result.
And it's every day.
It's every day.
Because it's almost like every day that you can change. You can
Yes.
be new.
Absolutely, 100%.
But also remember who you are.
100%. Which is why it makes so much sense against the overall backdrop of what we call teshuvah with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Teshuvah is every day. Yom Kippur is the escape valve. If you and I haven't really done our best and we kind of messed up, then we can rely on Yom Kippur. But we're not supposed to rely on Yom Kippur. We're supposed to be transforming ourselves to the good and to the better every single day, because every day is a brand new day. So you're a new person today. You're not the same as you were yesterday. how are you going to live out that life in a 1,000 ways in the next 24 hours? With your life, the people you interact with, the world. It's a brand new day.
That says that you do the same things on Shabbos that you do all the other days, but you read the Torah.
Right. Well, we wouldn't be engaged
6
in.
days you do all this, and the seventh day you rest.
Yes, exactly. So we're not engaged in gainful employment on Shabbos, as you know. Of course, you know that exactly. So what it means is that when you get up in the morning, you go outside and you interact with the world, with your neighbor, people you bump into, the mailman who brings your packages or whatever it might be, all those dozens of conversations and those interactions that you and I have, each one of them is a brand new experience. And how will you and I interact at this moment with this person? We have a capacity to make things good and just. So when you think about all this and all that you know about Judaism and Torah, what you have to understand is that the overall momentum of Torah and Judaism is optimism. Goodness matters. It's an optimistic approach in every aspect of our lives. Psalm for Shabbat on page 112. Mizmor shir liyom HaShabbat, tov lahodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, lahagid baboker chasdecha, ve'emunatcha baleilot, alei asur v'alei navel, alei higayon bechinor. Mizmor shir liyom HaShabbat, tov lodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ki simach tanenoi b'folecha, b'maaseh yadecha aranen, ma gadlo maasecha Adonai, ma'od amaku machshabotecha. Mizmor shir liyom HaShabbat, tov lodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. On the English side, the arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, every evildoer blossoms, only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, you are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high. You anointed my head with fresh oil, speaking to everybody. Each one of us has been anointed by God. Who was anointed 3,000 years ago? Priests, kings, prophets. Which means that from this mindset, you and I are being viewed through the point of view of this psalm as like a priest or a prophet or a king by God. So what do we do with that? That's tremendous power. A Kohen, a Melech or a Malkah or a Navi. It's a tremendous power. And therefore, see who you are, anointed by God, designated for a specific capacity to make the world powerful and changed theoretically. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady because I know, my ears tell me, the whole body tells me. Furthermore, here we are together. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in our God's courtyards. We're not just talking about going to Home Depot and getting mulch and planting some trees. We're talking that God is putting us in God's own yard, in God's courtyard. And God's not going to put something routine in God's own courtyard. God's going to put a tzaddik, and you and I have the capacity to be in God's backyard. associated with Shabbat. In old age, the righteous remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. Everybody has a role to play in the world today. Love that, Ms. Moore. Gee whiz. Every Friday night, every Shabbat morning. There are some more traditional shuls that actually say that psalm one more time at the very end of the service after the Elaine. I don't do that. I think we can abbreviate a little bit. But that psalm is a biggie on page 122. Baruch Shamar Behaya Ha'olam Baruch Hu Baruch Oseh V'Reshit Baruch Omer V'Oseh Baruch Gozer Umekayim Baruch Merachem Al Haaretz Baruch Merachem Al Habriot Baruch Meshalem Sachar Toli Re'ov Baruch Chalad V'Kayom Lo Netzach Baruch Podeh Umatzil Baruch Shemo. Across the page. The singular one who gives life to the world, the sovereign who is praised and glorified forever and ever. This is your great name. Baruch Atah Adonai, sovereign, celebrated with songs of praise. Yachid Cheo Olamim, Melech Mishbachum Fawar, Adei Ad Shmo Agadol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Melech Mulol Batish Bachot. The Ashrei is on page 136. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Od Yalucha Selah, Ashreyam Shekochalo, Ashreyam Sharonoi Elov, Tila David, Aramim Cholai HaMelech, Baruch Hashim Chali Olam Boed, Bechol Yom Avorcheka, Ba'alashim Chali Olam Boed, Gadol Adonai Molal Ma'od, V'lig Dulato Ein Cheker, Dor L'dor Yishavach Masecha, Ugvurotecha Yagidu, Hadar Kavod Odecham, B'divrei Niflotecha Asicham, Ve'ezuz Nerotecha Yomeru, Ugdulatecha Asaprenom, Zecher Rav Tuvacha Yaviu, V'tzit Katacha Yiranenu, Chanun Rachum Adonai, Erech Apayim Ugdol Chesed, Tov Adonai Lakol, Rachamov Al Kol Ma'asav, Yoducha Adonai Kol Ma'asecha, V'chasidecha Yevarchucha, Kevol Malchutcha Yomeru, Ugavoratecha Yedaberu, Lodia Livnei Hadam Gvurotav, Uchavod Hadar Malchuto, Malchutecha Malchut Kol Olamim, Umem Shaltecha B'chol Dor Vador, Somech Adonai L'chol Hanoflim, V'zokef L'chol Hakfufim, Einei Chol Elecha Yisaberu, V'atan Otelem Etachlam B'ito, Poteach Et Yodecha, Umasbia L'chol Charatzon, Tzadik Adonai B'chol Derachov, V'chasid B'chol Masav, Karov Adonai L'chol Korov, L'chol Asher Yikra'u V'emet, Ritzon Re'av Ya'aseh, Viet Shabbatam Yishma V'Yoshiem Shomer Adonai et Kol Ohavav Viet Kol Hashem Yashmid Tilat Adonai Daber Pi Vivorech Kol Basar Shem Shalom Voed Vanach Nevarech Yah Me'atav Yad Olam Hallelujah. And on page 141. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, El Bikadsho, Hallelujah, Bikiaozo, Hallelujah, Bigvorotav, Hallelujah, Karagulo, Hallelujah, Betega Shofar, Hallelujah, Benevel Bechinor, Hallelujah, Betofel Macho, Hallelujah, Bemini Vugav, Hallelujah, Betzilts Shema, Hallelujah, Betzilts Leishma, Kol Shema Talel Yah, Hallelujah. Kol Shema Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Ya la 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 la, Ya la 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 la, Ya la 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 la, la 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 la. On page 143, we have the poem from the book of Shemot, chapter 15, known as the Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea. Israelites crossed over the sea after the Exodus, and the pursuing Egyptian army was swallowed up, as you know. And this experience is really the kickstart to freedom, because there's no going back. The army is no longer a threat, but there's now a sea behind them, and they have to go forward. And they're not going anywhere that's going to be comfortable and convenient. They're walking into a wilderness. It's a frontier in every sense of the word. They have no, and we're starting to move towards the promised land. And then we have